Morning cuddles. In bed. That's you. That's you, babes.
Hello, my darling. It's Chanel, and welcome to another reading vlog. So today it is reading racks. So all of these little pieces of paper in here are recommendations I either saw from watching booktubers talk about books or recommendations my viewers gave me of books they enjoyed and think I might like. So as usual, I'm going to just pick some from the jar. I'll be reading 3 books for this reading vlog. So without much further ado, let's get into it. So I'm trying to go to the bottom so I can get an old one. Oh, I dropped some. It's okay. Okay, so as usual, I'll let you eat first. I have a feeling that's upside down. I'm not looking. Titan Hoppers by Rob J. Hayes. This was from Monty Adkins. So as usual, if there are channels, I will link them down below. Yeah, this is an old one. So I think this is sci-fi. I think it might have been YA sci-fi. And I remember they were like, on the cover there was a shield. So thanks, Monty. I'll be reading that in this vlog. But actually, you know what? Let's go for one on top. Let's go for Topsy. Is that, I don't know which way. Thrum by Meg Smitherman. And I saw this on Freckled Bookworm. She's a doll. I am super excited. I actually really legitimately want, I'm so excited that I'm tripping over my words. I legitimately wanted to read this immediately, but because I saw it on a booktuber's channel, it went in the jar. So I think this is another sci-fi, maybe horror novella. So I'm very excited for that one. And one more. Okay, so I'm going to go for another one. Oh, okay, we've got this one. So let's see. The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. This was from Marine from The Waves of Your Soul. So that's one of my tarot buddies. Okay, I think this is a big boy and I think it's epic fantasy. I've seen this on other channels too. I feel like maybe Emily Fox also mentioned this one. I don't know, but okay, so I've got fantasy. I think, remember, like, I haven't seen these in ages. Sci-fi fantasy maybe, and sci-fi horror maybe. Oh, I'm excited. Thank God Thrum's in there because I do believe Goblin Emperor is a big one. So I'll see how I go. I might throw a 4th one in there. We'll see. But so far so good. As you can see, my jar's pretty full, so I hopefully won't be adding more than I am subtracting every month. But besides the reading, I'm heading out today to drop V off to a birthday party, and then I might take Indy out for brunch because I found this cafe that has like toys and things in there. And even though Indy's 10, she's still very much a kid and she still loves to play and she gets excited about things like that. So we'll see, maybe she has aged out of toy cafes. I don't know, but it's a new one that opened up. So at the very least, they do have waffles and that's Indy's favorite food. So that's on the agenda today, just reading and kids parties and cafes. Okay guys, so I have read Titan Hopper by Rob J. Hayes. This was 476 pages and it is a sci-fi space opera YA. So in this book you have Iro, or Iro, I don't know how to pronounce it, and it's a pretty brutal opening chapter in which his sister is killed while in the line of duty. So everyone are on these ships and they're on a ship that you can sort of tell is a poorer ship. And in this world there is magic, so certain human beings are gifted with different skills. On Iro's ship, everyone becomes a paladin, and paladin are basically there to boost the other humans with magic who are battling monsters. So okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. In this galaxy there are these Titan ships, and these Titan ships are multi-level, gigantic behemoths, and they contain resources for humans, but they also contain monsters. And on each of the levels, so the top level, level 1, will have the least amount of monsters, or level 1 kind of monsters. And as you progress deeper into the ship, the big bosses come out to play. Now, in this world, even the humans aren't really sure where these Titan ships came from. It's like they don't know their history. They're pretty clueless. And so therefore, as a reader, you're also clueless as to the lore and the world building and history. I don't really understand where everything came from and what everything is and who created it. What's the deal here? You're not going to know. You just sort of have to let that go and just go along for the ride. It's quite action-packed. In this world, they use the word scrap pretty much as the only cuss word. So it's scrap this, scrap you, scrap that. And I'm like, guys, you couldn't have found just a second word that you can interchange, because that did get on my nerves. The amount of times I read the word scrap was too many. It was too many. And also there was just way too much scrapping going on. Here she goes. That's the clever cat that likes to get into everything. Sylvie babes, no, please don't. In this world, they are younger, they're teenagers, and I felt like this would have been a better novel if it wasn't. Why? Because these teenagers, dudes, they're constantly scrapping and fighting and sniping at each other. It's frustrating to read as an adult. You just want to yell, grow up. Obviously, they're teenagers though, they're being teens. But yeah, that is something that I did find irritating personally, and I would have preferred this to be a adult cast and crew. I feel like there's a bully romance being set up. Like there's two options for Iroh and his love interest, and one is a bully, and I hate bully romances. Why you would ever even consider dating someone who picks on you, who calls you useless. That's what this girl Mia calls Iroh, useless, that's his name, and literally also physically harms him too. Why you would consider dating that person, I don't know, but they're kind of alluding to maybe there might be a romance going on. In this particular one, there is no romance on page. There's just hints of future dalliances. Now, the most interesting part of this book is kind of the magic. So people's powers and how they use them. That was the fascinating part. So not everyone has powers. But for the people who do, so it generally happens, so for everyone, like I said, most of the times the powers are limited to genetics. So like I said, on Iroh's ship Courage, everyone there that develops powers develops paladin powers. Everyone on the Eclipse ship develops corsair powers. So that generally tends to be the case. Iroh's a bit of a special snowflake situation. But what happens is you first get your powers, and you'll have like one skill that you can do. But then to progress, you actually have to go onto a Titan ship. And when you're fighting on that Titan ship against the monsters, you will come across your first gate. So far, people I think have only gone to 5 gates, but your first gate will appear, and this will give you a power up. Power up. So you will get to level up, basically. And the more gates that you open, the more powerful you are. But something's been going on lately, and all of the people with powers have not been able to level up. Their gates are not coming, and they don't understand why this is happening. And could Iroh be the key to solving this problem of people's powers stalling? Time will tell. But yeah, that part of it was really interesting. I loved seeing all the different types of magic systems and powers and the skills tied to those and how they used them against monsters. That was fascinating. That was highly entertaining. While they're on the Titans and they're going like through the different levels and trying to, get fuel or get food or have the ability to manufacture armor, because none of the human beings, it seems like they just don't have any way of self-sustaining. They don't know how to manufacture things without these Titan ships. They don't know how to grow food. They don't know how to find fuel. They are all reliant on these mysterious magical ships in space. And if one goes down, they have to find another or they'll perish. So I'm like, these humans, I don't know, they just feel a bit, they've got all these powers and things, but yeah, once again, they feel like kids who need handouts from mummy and daddy to make it through. But while they're on the Titan ships, the scenes of them going through reminded me of the scene in Hunger Games when they're under the Capitol in the sewers and they're fighting the monsters. It was a lot of that. And I think this would make a good movie or TV show, even maybe a video game, because you've obviously got the different levels of different monsters on every stage and the different things that you can find and the leveling up of the gates. So it has like that kind of game playing energy to it. Overall, I decided to give it a 3.5. Like I said, the idea of the magic system is really fantastic. It's not really well developed in this, is in that you don't get a fully rounded grasp of the world building or the magic system. Maybe that is going to happen in the future books because, like I said, the characters themselves don't know shit. But the thing that brought it down for me was that it's based on teenagers and the teenagers were being teens. And I'm like, I'm too old for that shit. I really am. I'm like, guys, just cut it out. Like, what are you doing? I just didn't want to read about their, you know, into their squabbling all the time. It just felt like, you know, toddlers throwing tantrums, and it was frustrating. But yeah, it is quite brutal and violent, which I did enjoy that aspect. Would I continue on in the series? Oh, I don't know. I might have to ask Monty if it gets better or not in regards to, like I said, the thing that held it back for me is the teenagers. I just found their choices and their decision making and their behavior juvenile and annoying to read. And also what sort of romance is getting set up, because yeah, I'm not a big fan of romance in YA. But like I said, the idea of it is really cool. I really did enjoy that, and I wanted to explore that more, and the beings and the powers, they don't even tell you all of the other types. You don't even know what these other types of magical beings, what they do. You pretty much just get a taste of, I think it was a Corsair, who they're tied to their sword, so they sort of channel their magic through their sword, and they can do these fast blink attacks. It's a lot of cool stuff. And then you've got the paladins who boost, like they can say steel, and the person they're boosting, like their skin almost turns to steel, so they can't be pierced by, you know, talons or anything. That's fascinating. Then you also had, I've forgotten what they were called, but they're these people that can, like, they're mappers almost, like they help guide you on the Titan ships in terms of directions, in terms of spotting booby traps, because the whole Titan ship is booby trapped. And so they help get you through. They're like wayfinders almost. There's a term, but of course I didn't write it down, so I've forgotten it. And then they mentioned mages, which sound really cool. But yeah, we've just gotten a teaser of all of the powers and skills and gates and such, and the Titan ships themselves. So we don't really know anything. But yeah, I might hit up Monty to know whether or not it's worth continuing on or not. So it's up in the air, but yeah, it's a 3.5 stars for me. I think the next one I'm going to go on to is Thrum, because I'm still in that sort of space. Apologies for the angle change, but my kid messaged me, so I had to go and deal with her query. I'm going to go on to Thrum next. So Thrum is a horror sci-fi novella with aliens, and a woman wakes up, I think her name is Amy, on a ship, and she's completely alone. There are no other humans. But then she gets a visitor, and I think things turn a little dangerous and scary. So I am excited. I've heard nothing but great things about this. So that will be the next one, and I will leave the Goblin Empire to last. If I find I have time to do another book for this before the next vlog, I will. If not, those will be the final 2 books. I just wanted to mention too, I've had a thing with moths lately. I've read 2 books that contained moths very heavily, and then I was driving yesterday and I felt a tickling on my calf, and I looked down and there was this like very big, very substantial moth just chilling on my leg. And I'd put the window down, but it didn't want to fly out. So me and my moth buddy just cruised until I got to my destination. And then when I step out, they fluttered off. But I was like, okay, 2 books in the 1 week that contained moths. So it was An Academy for Liars and What Feasts at Night. And then an actual moth, like a big one, not a regular house moth, was just, perched on my leg. So I've looked it up, and obviously moths spiritually are to do with the whole similar thing to butterflies, transformation, death and rebirth. With moths, you've got like a lunar aspect, so it could mean dreams or visitations from the other world. But I just thought, yeah, that was interesting. It was a lot of coincidences. It's just a lot of moth energy. Let me know down below if you have a different meaning for what it is to be just surrounded by moths. Okay, so I just had a lovely viewer say that they wanted to give me something for Christmas. They were having issues with the Australian Amazon wishlist because they're not in Australia. Obviously they can't do the BEEM because they're not Australian. So they asked, like, how can they do it? I think you can do a super thanks on YouTube. I think you can select amount to donate to the channel. I think that YouTube takes 30% of that. I have now set up a PayPal because I asked if I had PayPal, so I've set one up now. It's just the Chanel Comms YT Gmail address that's listed on there, but I will put it in my bio again. And I'm just trying to think, is there any other way? look, I might end up doing a Patreon one day with obviously exclusive content and the like. I don't have the time for that right now. But if I do launch a Patreon, I'll let you know. But yes, at the moment, like I still, guys, just don't, you don't need to send me anything, okay? You don't. But for the people that want to, I have now set up a PayPal account as well. So hopefully that helps. Guys, I just finished Thrum. Oh my God. 5 stars. 5 stars. It is a fantastic sci-fi horror novella. Seriously, no notes. No notes. So good. Oh my God, where do I begin? Okay, so you have Amy. She wakes up on her ship and her crewmates are dead in stasis. So they were put into stasis. They could be thrust past their solar system with the aim of making contact with alien life. So she wakes up. Unfortunately, something went wrong. They're dead. She wakes up to the sound of an alarm blaring. So she goes to the control center and it turns out her communication panel thing is missing and the fuel cell area has been damaged. So she goes out in a spacesuit and she sees that they've been physically damaged. So it's not a meteorite or an asteroid that's hit it. Someone has done it to them. She then decides to send out an SOS beacon and she gets a response. And it's from an alien life form. So when she looks into space, all she sees is a dark patch, which is like blotting out the stars. And she sends a welcome package. So humans have made a welcome package to try to explain to aliens what humans are and that they come in peace and they just want to meet other life forms. And so when she gets a message back, she hears a very posh British male voice. And he said, "I've read your information package. How can I help you?" And she's like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Well," he says, "Dorian Gray." Like, first of all, perfect. And she's like, "Why Dorian Gray?" And he said, "Well, it was one of the books I enjoyed the most in your information package." And when she boards his ship, he's standing there in full Victorian garb. He's got dark black hair and chiseled cheekbones and full lips. He's basically her ideal man. But he tells her, "I am not human. You wouldn't understand my form. You'd be terrified of it. So I am in human form to put you at ease." And so she's on his ship and look, yeah, I can't say anything else about it, but it was fascinating. I loved it. Yeah, it was everything. The main character is bi, so one of her ex-girlfriends was another crew member who has passed away, so she was processing a lot of grief. And what I really enjoyed was that when she wakes up and she sees that her crewmates are dead and she sees that her ship has been impaired and she's floating out in space, the middle of nowhere, she has a panic attack, which I think is legitimate. Would you not have a panic attack at that point? So I found her responses very believable. And yeah, it's a mindfuck book because the ship that she's on, the alien ship, it basically her human brain can't comprehend it. So the ship is projecting things that her human brain can comprehend, but that aren't the truth, that aren't reality. So yeah, this was fantastic. 5 stars. I will definitely read more from this author, but this was just, like I said, the pacing was spot on. The writing was great. The characters were interesting. There is, some spice on here. So I would say it's PG. Like, they do have sex, but it's not described. It's just sort of like the kissing beforehand, you know. So yeah, it's a PG for spice. But yeah, I say go and give it a read if you like Sora. High five. Oh my god. Oh my god. Chanel, horror and sci-fi novellas. Good lord, son. Oh my god, I got there in the end. You'll enjoy this. Yeah, I've just finished reading it, so I can't even wrap my own human brain around it, but so well done. 5 stars. Obviously, I'm so stoked to have my first 5-star of the month already. That was really quick, but yeah, fantastic. So yeah, I know I'm supposed to read The Goblin Emperor next, but I think I just need to sit and digest with it because I don't, sometimes you just don't want to go into something immediately. I just want to sit in my feels a bit and just marinate in what happened. Fantastic. Like I said, a lot of psychological horror as well as physical horror. So there was a lot of blood, a lot of blood and bleeding and decomposing in this one. Dorian Gray, yeah. The character Dorian, atrocious, okay? Not someone that you want to emulate in any way, but I love Oscar Wilde stuff, the way he writes, the depraved decadence and selfish splendor. But the name Dorian Gray, just chef's kiss. Fantastic. So 2 great reads, 3.5 stars and a 5-star. Goblin Emperor. Hopefully it delivers. Hopefully it's my type of epic fantasy, but we shall see. Okay guys, so I have read the final book, which was The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison, and it was 445 pages. And let me tell you what it is about. So it's about a young man named Maya. He's a shy boy, a nice guy, a lonely lad, and he is the 4th and unwanted half-goblin, half-elf son of the Emperor. Fate, however, intervenes by causing the royal airship to explode, killing the Emperor and his other progeny, thus thrusting Maya into the Emperor's seat and the daily minutiae of court politics, the running of a kingdom. This book was incredibly slow, and it was mostly based in the palace. I think it was actually all based in the palace, to be honest, so it felt very claustrophobic to me. You really have to love Maya, and just reading about Maya's day in the life, basically. I personally found it mind-numbingly dull, and I was bored to tears. I also now have a hatred for the word serenity, because in this book it is used as the honorific term for Maya. So instead of saying Your Majesty, people say serenity. There is someone here to see you. Serenity. So you can imagine how many times is that word used? Almost 900. Almost 900 times that word is used. And I don't know if anybody else is like this, but when any word is repeated that often, it becomes grating. It becomes like it isn't even a word in the English language. It's something other entirely. And yeah, I wasn't coping well. Every time I read it, I felt like it was lemon juice in a paper cut. So that did itch my brain in a very unpleasant way. But yeah, oh my God, this book, look, there were a few skirmishes, some attempts at usurping the throne and assassinating Maya were made, but even those scenes were meh. It was the most unexciting assassination attempts I have ever read. I didn't find any enjoyment in this book. I think if you're someone who absolutely creams their panties over court politicking and the minutes taken during a meeting, then this is the book for you. But it's not my kind of fantasy. Like, I'm here to read something interesting and exciting. I'm not here to read about the daily drudgery involved in being a monarch and ruling and feeling like you're a puppet that is having all their strings pulled by various people and trying to figure out who to please and who to banish and who's on your side and who is against you. Hello, darling. It was just tiring, and I could not wait for it to be over. I was just counting the pages down. Obviously, I continued it. Obviously, I read it to the end, but I'm not gonna lie. I really contemplating DNFing it because it was so unenjoyable and it was long. But I thought maybe something happens. Sorry, I had to rub the cat belly. You can't be presented with a floofy tummy and not rub it. My baby. I had to go back for a second. I don't know where I was going with this, but look, yeah, it's just not my kind of book. It has got a mad high rating, so a lot of people are giving it 4 and 5 stars, and I don't personally get it. Even the way it was written was very dense, and like I said, just it was like I was sitting in a business meeting I didn't want to be in. I had no interest in even listening to. Like, Maya's a nice guy, he's a sweetie, but he also just wasn't captivating enough for me to be interested in what was going on. And even the people's names were of a vein that made it confusing as to who was who. I did start to lose track of all the advisors and lords and family members and the like. So yeah, look, this one wasn't for me, but this is, like I said, a massively popular book, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. But yeah, I did give it a 2 stars. And so let me recap. Hey, girls! Sibling squabbles, bro. Let me recap the books that I read for this reading rec. So we had The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison, which I gave 2 stars. Then I read Titan Hoppers by Rob J. Hayes, which I gave 3.5 stars. And my favorite read of this reading vlog and my first 5-star of the month of December was Thrum by Meg Smitherman. So I wish I could have done a 4th book, but if I ended up picking up a 600-page book, I wouldn't have had time to fit it in. I am thinking though of maybe doing 2 reading recs per month, just so I can make sure my jar doesn't overfloweth with recommendations. I don't think taking out 3 a month is enough compared to what is coming in. I have to think about it. I was also thinking about doing 2 Get Real Weird With It vlogs a month. I'm trying to like think how I want to structure my reading vlogs going into the new year. So I'm playing around a bit, but I'm just going to figure it out and then you'll see the end result of that. But yeah, I still wound up with 2 books I actually really enjoyed and had a great time with. And it's always interesting to see what other people find fascinating and find interesting. It's just, we all have very different experiences reading the same books, and that's just blows my mind sometimes. In this case, I felt like I was a person taking crazy pills because I just couldn't see why people were frothing so much over this book, but different strokes for different folks. Until next time, stay wild, Star Child.